all glory to him who loved us and freed us by shedding his blood for us. And all glory to him whom the grave could not hold, but who rose again on the third day, conquering death, redeeming sin, and giving life to those who were once dead, but now can be alive forever and ever and ever. Let's sing See What a Morning. Of days through the spirit of glows, faith with certainty, honor and blessing, glory and praise to the King, crowned with power and authority. And we are raised with him, death is dead, love is won, Christ is conquered, and we shall
Hey, good afternoon to you and welcome to another week's worth of ReLaunch. Lovely to have you with us here and glad to welcome you. Hope that you have already enjoyed some good soup and some good chat as well. For those of you joining us online as well, we can't offer you the soup, but we're glad to share these moments with you. And I know that for some of you, it's just a kind of refresher in the middle of the day, and we hope that it's refreshing for you to join us in this way. Anytime you are in Aberdeen, we'd be glad to see you here as well, Wednesdays at 12:30 onwards. And welcome to you. We take this opportunity in the middle of the day always just to pause, to reflect just a little bit, so that as well as getting some good nourishment in our stomachs, we get some good nourishment for our hearts as well, and have the opportunity to refocus, to start again, to relaunch into the rest of the day, into the rest of the week, and into the rest of our lives as well. And sometimes we just need that. And one of the things that we're doing at the moment through these weeks is simply addressing some of the big questions that there are. And we're using a very particular part of the Bible. John chapter 11 is a chapter in the record that a man called John gives of the life and ministry of Jesus, in which he tells us of an astonishing thing that happened. I'm not going to spoil the story, but it starts with a man who is ill, and his sisters who live with him obviously are pretty worried about him, and they send a message to Jesus. And one of the things this chapter does is it throws up a lot of the sort of questions that often we find we're asking. Big questions. Is anyone there? Does God care? And things like that. And today we're going to be addressing another question, another important question that really arises from the next little bit of the story that we're going to read. And the question can be framed like this: does trusting Jesus mean ditching reason? Do you have to kind of shut your eye to reality in order to trust in Jesus? Is that what faith in Jesus really involves? A lot of people think that's what it is. You know, they think that you are just kind of, you've gone off your head if you trust in Jesus, and you must have to kind of stop thinking rationally in order to trust in him. And it's a question that arises out of the passage that I'm going to read just now from the scripture from John chapter 11. Put the words on the screen for you. Just reading in from verse 7. The backdrop to this is, I say, this guy Lazarus has got ill. His sisters, called Martha and Mary, they've sent a message to Jesus, who is quite a long way away, probably at least 2 days' distance anyway, if not more, in an entirely different place. And they send a message because they just want him to come and help. They know him well enough to know that he's able to do amazing things. And people have been healed in the past. People who've been blind have got their sight back. People who've been lame have been able to walk. So obvious thing to do is you send a message to him. And we're told that Jesus loved him. But we're also told that for reasons, so far as his friends were concerned, were best known to himself, he didn't come running at all. In fact, he delayed. He put off coming. And eventually, at verse 7, we read this. Then he said to his disciples, they were all with him, obviously. Then he said to his disciples, let us go back to Judea. That's where Lazarus and his sisters were. But Rabbi, they said, a short while ago, the Jews there tried to stone you, and yet you're going back. Just pause for a minute. They're saying, have you got off your head? You know, and if we follow you, it kind of seems that is a crazy thing to do, because every rational thought in our mind means you go to Jerusalem, you go back to Judea, you know what happens there. They don't like you there. They have things against you there. They've been out to get you there, and you want us to go back with you into that. Do you think we're off our heads? Surely that's kind of bonkers to go back to Judea. I mean, they didn't say that exactly. They didn't say, you know, you must be bonkers, but they're thinking that. You must be bonkers. You must be off your head. You must have lost your reason to be thinking in those terms. And Jesus replies to them. Jesus answered, verse 9 there, are there not 12 hours of daylight? He means by that daytime is a kind of safe time because bad things don't happen so much in daylight. Anyone who walks in the daytime will not stumble, for they see by this world's light. It's when a person walks at night that they stumble, for they have no light. Now, he was speaking there really about just the kind of reason behind why he was going there. And you're wondering why this person is on the screen. I'm going to tell you why in a moment. I'll tell you who he is. First of all, his name is Andrew. And he is a second cousin, I think, of mine. He's a real weirdo. And I love him dearly. I think he's second cousin. He's either second cousin once removed or a third cousin or something like that. I'm related to the guy. And the reason I want to show you this picture is because I want you to see. My guess is that if you were to be asked, how old do you think he is? Well, I'll have a little quiz with you. Hands up if you think he is under 40. Yeah, that's what I thought. He's not under 40. Hands up those of you who think he's between 50 and 80. Yeah, and you're all right. He is. He's late 60s. He's kind of my age. And I want you, from that picture, you can see that's how old he is. That's a real live Andrew who is that age. And when I tell you why I've put the picture up, you'll maybe understand. I want you to see this guy made it into his late 60s. He is still alive. You can check him up on Google and you'll find him there. Andrew Cranfield is his name. A lovely guy, and he's got on well in life and so on and so forth, but he's still alive. And so far as I was concerned, as a youngster, we used to go on holiday together with that family and a whole load of other families as well. And there was one particular summer when this guy, Andrew, arrived. He would be kind of late teenagers, so he and his brothers and sister were driving a car by that time, and they arrived with a huge long trailer behind them with a massive contraption that we had never seen in our lives before behind them. And before too long, he had all of us heading off up over the hills up to the cliff top. And the next thing, he was at the edge of the cliff at speed going over the edge of the cliff. Now, you know as well as I do what happens when you do that. That is not a clever thing to do. That is not a reasonable thing to do. That is a crazy thing to do. That is a daft thing to do because it was a very steep cliff. It was just sheer straight down. It was a very high cliff. It was a cliff at which there were sharp rocks at the bottom and the sea lapping up onto the rocks like that. And to head off over the edge of the cliff is a daft, crazy thing to do. I wasn't very good at physics at school, but I learned enough about physics to know that there is a thing called the law of gravity, which means if you step off a cliff, you fall downwards, and there's not a lot you can do about it. And you fall down at some speed, 9.8 meters per second is the speed at which you are increasing velocity, so that by the time you hit the bottom, you are crashing at huge speed onto these rocks. You do not survive. So here's this guy, Andrew, whom I love dearly. He was a cousin, and we got on great with him. And he is doing something that seemed absolutely great. And moreover, he isn't just traveling down over the edge of the cliff by himself. He has this huge, heavy contraption with him, strapped to him. And I know as well as you do that the heavier you are, the faster you're going to fall as well. And we're thinking there is no way on earth that he can survive. We had all sorts of thoughts going through our mind as to how best to describe it that ranged from weird through daft to crazy. And he said, that's not the word that I'm going to use. He said, the word I'm going to use is hang gliding. Now, we'd never heard of hang gliding. We'd never come across hang gliding. But he said, trust me, he said, it's safe. We thought there's nothing safe about running off the edge of a cliff down over rocks like that. And he said, believe me, he says, it's good. I'm going to fly, and you think I'm flying in the face of reason, but actually I'm not. I have thought this through. I have worked this out, and it is safe to do that. And I'm going to do something that you're going to look on and think, wow, I would love to be able to do that. I'm going to fly, he said. And sure enough, that's what he did. He did. And he explained it to us because he wanted us to be able to do the same, to enjoy the same. And he said these three things. First of all, he said, I have grasped the facts. And he explained what the facts are. Basic physics and basic sort of meteorology. When the air hits coming in off the sea, when it hits the bottom of a cliff, the air pushes upwards. You can't see the air, obviously, but it's there, it happens. And he said that's what happens. The air hits the bottom of the cliffs, comes up, there's an upward thrust, and the hang glider, the kind of wings of the hang glider, they catch the air and they just carry me. The air that you can't see, he says, but it's there. I can't see it, you can't see it, but it's there, and the air carries me. So he had grasped the basic facts, first of all. Secondly, he said, and I've watched people doing it. I have seen the truth. I've seen that it works. I've seen people do it. I've watched other people do it, not just one or two, but a whole series of different people. I've seen them do it. And yeah, it works. It's not just a kind of fluke on one occasion, but every single person that does that, that's what happens. And I understand why it happens. There is a reason. I can't see the air. It seems kind of daft to jump off a cliff, but as you do so, you hit the air, and the contraption that you strapped on, it holds you up. And I've seen it happen. And he said, and I tried it out. I didn't jump off a cliff the first time. I kind of did it in a sort of milder version, but I've tried it, and I know it works, because as I've stepped out and done that, I've found that I'm flying. And he said, there's nothing like it. A whole different way of living, a whole different way of seeing the world, and you are missing out on a treat. And so I'm not doing something that flies in the face of reason. It seems initially as though it's daft, because, you can't see the air. There's nothing there. What happens normally is people are just going to sink like that. But this contraption called a hang glider, he says, that's what carries me. And I trust that to do exactly that. And he alive today. That's why I showed you a picture at the start. I just wanted you to be sure before we started it has a happy ending. He didn't fall off the edge of the cliff and that was the end of the story. He flew in the face of reason. And in many ways, that's exactly what we're called to do. Jesus says, follow me. And a lot of people think, you've got to be daft to do that. I can't see Jesus. How do I know that he's there at all? So how on earth can I be expected to do that? It seems just totally against all good reason to step out and trust and live your life on the basis of someone who lived a long time ago that you can't even see. Why would you do that? Why would anyone in their right mind do that? And it's those three basic bullet points up there that help us, that it's not actually against reason. Because when you look at the facts of the matter, there was this person, Jesus. He did live. He did amazing things. He did astonishing things, quite remarkable things. He made some astonishing claims. He taught some astonishing truth as well. He was crucified. He was buried. The evidence that there is for his being raised from the dead as well is quite astounding. A lawyer once looked into it in order to try and prove that he could not possibly have risen from the dead. And the more he looked into it, the more he came to the conclusion, actually, he did. That's what the evidence all pointed to. This Jesus did rise from the dead. He's alive today. He's at work in the world today. You look at the facts, you can't see him, but he's there. He's for real. So we grasp the fact. We've seen other people, a whole catalogue of people down through history, often in our own experience as well, who have trusted Jesus, lived their life on the basis of that, and proven again and again. That's what happens. He holds you up. He leads you through, and you begin to fly in life in that manner. And we learn then tentatively just to take that first step and to trust in him. And so instead of our saying, trusting Jesus means you ditch reason, it's the opposite. Trusting Jesus makes sense. And that really is what the whole Bible wants us to get a hold of. It may sound initially kind of crazy and weird to trust in someone who lived a long time ago and whom you can't see. So why would you do that? But actually, when you grasp the facts, when you observe the lives of others who have lived like that and trusted in him, you begin to see, hey, it makes sense. Why would you not want to live like that? Why would you not want to strap yourself into Jesus himself as part and parcel of all that he is and live your life on the basis that he will hold you up, he will help you, and he will lead you and enable you. And that's really what our stopping mid-week like this is designed to help and encourage you to do, that whatever you're having to face, however difficult it may be, you can trust him to carry you through all of that and sustain you. It makes sense to trust in him. And far from being against reason, you are able yourself to fly in the face of reason. Let me pray. Living God, thank you for the Bible. Thank you for all that you teach us from the Bible. And it is thrilling just to see the way in which Jesus does such remarkable things and bids his followers simply learn to step out, to take the plunge like that, and to follow him, and to discover as they do that it makes sense. We fly because he upholds and helps us. And so if there are folk here, folk listening in today, Father, that are really struggling, they don't know how they're going to cope with all the things that they're having to battle through, help them simply to place themselves into your hands, to know that your Son Jesus will indeed uphold them and sustain them and help them. Go with us then, enable us to live our lives like that, and yours will be the one whom we praise gladly. Thank you for all your good gifts to us, for your own name's sake. Amen. Good, enjoy the rest of your lunch then, and enjoy the rest of your time. Have a good week, and we'll see some of you certainly on Sunday as well. Good to have you with us online. God bless you too.